good afternoon, good morning, maybe even good evening. No, I don't know where you're tuning in from. But let's start today's live by doing some EFT tapping. So tap along with me. Because the reason that I'm here today is not to just give you a bunch of information. That's really not what I do when I walk this journey with parents. Tap along with me if you're thinking, I don't even know what EFT tapping is. Just tap along with me. Find these points that really just help us release stress. And I want to start here before I go into today's topic. Just tap along here, just underneath your collarbone. When I'm working with parents, when I'm supporting parents, this is all about nervous system support. This is all about supporting you to really help your child feel safe, emotionally confident, emotionally calm. But what about you? And that's what I want to also talk about today. So let's just take a deep breath together. Let's do a little bit of EFT tapping. I don't want to give you a bunch of information today and add to your stress. What I want to do today is help support your nervous system. Help support your mindset around what's going on with your child right now. And I know, as an experienced coach, that when I'm working with a parent, particularly one who often has a sensitive nervous system like their child does and feeling very deeply, the last thing you want right now, just tap along with me here, just under the collarbone. The last thing you need, rather, is a bunch of information thrown at you. So this is the nervous system work. When I'm working with parents, this is not just about me giving you advice. It's actually about me really holding the space for you as well, while you feel supported, while your nervous system feels supported. Because it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot trying to help your child when your emotions also feel all over the place. So I just wanted to start there. How are you doing? How are you doing? We're talking about after school meltdowns today. And I know so many of you right now, school's out or school's about to be out. So many of my clients are saying, my child's about to finish school. But for so many of you, your kids are still in school. And whether they're in or out of school for many, millions of parents across this globe is one of their biggest stresses with their child. So the after school meltdowns, the grumpiness, the mood swings, the pushing you away, the sudden silence, the I want to tell you everything negative that happened today, the anger. Where does that all come from? They come home from school, they haven't seen you all day, and they erupt like this volcano. And you're often told, well, it's because you're their safe space. They hold on to all these emotions all day, which is true, by the way. But it's because you're their safe space. And do you ever feel, though, but I don't really feel like their safe space? Everyone's saying this is why they're having all these meltdowns, but I don't know if I actually feel very safe in those moments. Because when my child is spiralling, I'm just doing my best. Parents say, Jen, I tried to be calm, but underneath, you're feeling a lot of anxiety. And so a lot of parents that I work with say, I want to be their safe space. I want to do things differently. I don't want my child to feel how I used to feel. Is that true for you? I don't want my child, in fact, to feel that way. In fact, I get very triggered when I see them feeling these feelings that I really relate to. And by the way, I also really relate to them, especially when it comes to school, because I used to feel the same way at school as well. So the way that you're often feeling in those moments when people are saying to you, oh, it's because you're their safe space, that's why they're bringing all these emotions home, but you're not feeling like the safe space. It's not because you're doing something wrong. It's also not because you're too sensitive or too emotional. It's often because you're trying to carry a lot for your child. You might also be the only parent in your family who feels as deeply as you do, or as deeply as your child does. Okay, so you end up being the parent in the family that carries it all, like a rucksack on your back. So you're not doing anything wrong, you're not too sensitive, you're often going into these after school moments when your child is spiraling or they're, just angry or emotional. You're often thinking, why do they feel like this? Why can they not remember anything positive that happened today? Why are they talking about all the negatives? Why have, they've not seen me all day. Why are they taking out their feelings on me? Relatable? So why is this happening? Well, I think we know why this is happening, but let me do a recap. So your child, they're not being disrespectful, even though it sounds like it. When you pick them up, they have spent, 6 hours in a building where they've been trying to hold it together all day. And they've been trying to cope. I don't know why right now there's fireworks going off on my video, but that is cool. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it's because I went like that. I can't do it again. I'll have to watch this replay back to see if that showed up. That was pretty cool. They've been holding it together all day long. They've been in this building for about 6 hours, holding together their feelings, trying to please the teacher, trying to cope with friendship dynamics. Hello, especially for little girls. This is something I hear a lot in my practice. Friendship dynamics. A lot of children don't know where they're up to from day to day with their friends, and they find that really upsetting, and they take it really personally, the things that these other kids and their friends say to them at school. And the routine and the changes in the routine and the pressure that's coming from the teachers, and the teachers are under pressure to get the kids through the curriculum. So all day long they're just trying to get through the day. They've often learned to mask how they feel. Hello, anyone else good at that when they were at school? I was like that at masking. Of course, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I spent my whole time in school masking to the best of my ability until it got too much, and then I had to say to the teacher, I don't feel well, I feel sick. And many of you probably heard me share that story before. So they're in school all day long, managing how they feel, they're masking their feelings, they're trying to please the teacher, and it's a lot, isn't it? And so the moment that they see you, it's like, well, thank goodness for that. It's home time. Finally, I get to just drop this mask. Finally, I don't have to prove anything, and I can let this out. Because those feelings that they've been carrying all day, they're going to have to let them out at some point, aren't they? But here's the thing. Not many children come home from school and put their bag down and say, do do you know what? I've been carrying a lot today. This has been a really long day. I've been trying to cope with school, and now I feel exhausted. Or now, this is why mum, or this is why dad, I feel the way that I do. Most children don't know how to communicate that. They don't really know that that's why they're feeling that way as well. So they don't say it like that, in that way. They have a go at you. They say, why did you bring this packet of crisps? You know I don't like these. They want to tell you all the negative, so-called negative things and complain about their day. They just want to offload. And it looks to you, a lot of parents say to me, why can they not remember anything positive? Like, why are they feeling this way when they come out of school? It looks to you like they've had the worst day ever. And there may have been some times, during that day, there probably were times that they enjoyed. But you're like this space where they just let it all out. But here's the thing. Do you feel like the safe space? Or do you feel really triggered when they come home? So even though they see home as the safe space, do you feel like the safe space that you actually want to be? Do you feel like you're just trying to be calm and trying to say the right things? Or do you feel like, no, I do feel calm. This isn't bothering me. When I start to work with parents, when we first meet, they're at the first place where it's like they know that their child picks up on their feelings, so they try to be calm. But trying to be calm is worlds apart from actually feeling calm. And so when I'm working with parents on a more deeper, working with them more deeply, when they come and work with me in my small group container, they come to learn very quickly that this is not about faking calm. This is not about just trying to help their child feel calm. It's actually about learning how to help their own nervous system feel safe in the moments when their child is spiraling. Okay, so I know so many of you said you're going to catch this on the replay. So, hi, so glad that you're here. So glad that you caught this replay. And do drop me a message if there's anything here that has just made you feel like, oh my gosh, this is speaking to me. Like, this is my language. I want to know more. I want to know more about how I get to learn more. Just drop me a message. Drop me a private message if that's you. Okay. So your child doesn't have the language. I'm just checking where my dog is. They don't have the language to say, I've been carrying all of this all day long. And what a lot of parents say to me is, I go into like rescue mode. I find it really hard when they have all these feelings, and I don't want them to feel how I used to feel. So they start to try and say things, understandably, that change how their child feels. But the problem with that is that your child hears the message from you. It's not okay to come home and just unwind and unravel. They start to think to themselves, maybe I'm too much. Maybe my parent prefers me or loves me more or likes me more when I act in this certain way. And we don't want that, do we? Because what this inner dialogue starts to create for your child is this belief that they are only worth loving when they act a certain way. That they are only deserving of love when they feel a certain way. And this becomes a huge roadblock when you're trying to move your child forwards to being this beautiful, sensitive child. We don't want to change that, but we want to help them feel safety and calmness in their body. Isn't that what we all want? I literally spent about 30 years chasing that, like trying to work out, how do I do that? I used to be the child I wasn't the child that came home having explosive meltdowns. As a child, I was the child who held it all in all day. As I said, queen at masking my feelings. But then I also came home and also tried to contain it at home, because I didn't really know, other than saying I feel sick, I didn't really know what to do with those feelings. So every child shows it differently. A lot of children that I'm working with their parents at the moment, a lot of children, when their parent first comes to me, their child is really vocal, or they're showing it through their behaviour after school. I wasn't like that. I tried to hold on to my feelings all day, and I was a child that would go to the secretary's office halfway through the day and knock on the door. I feel sick, and I'd plunk myself down and TMI, but she'd give me a sick bucket. I felt sick. I wasn't going to be poorly, because it was never about it was never about the physical. That was just how I showed my emotions. But back then, nobody understood that. So I was left feeling so isolated. When I'd sit there with this sick bucket, I'm thinking, really, I just want to go home. I would try and bribe my mum in the morning. I'd give her £1 coin. Please just don't send me to school today. I'll pay you. I could laugh now because I'm 42. But bless me, back then at the time, I was struggling. And my parents didn't know, had no clue. There was no information around back then as to how to even begin to support me. But the reason I share my personal story, or some of my personal story, is to let you know that I truly know. Yeah, I got stomach aches all the time. Yeah, it was like stomach ache, but then it turned into this, perhaps one day, it's hard to remember, isn't it, every detail, but perhaps one day I felt sick, and then it's gradually turned into, now I'm worried I'm going to be sick at school. And then it kind of turned into, that therefore means, because our brains make connections, that means it's probably safer not to eat at school. It all became a little like a ball of wool, where's the beginning of this? It all kind of became quite entangled. But I even remember right now, at age 42, how I actually felt. It's almost like I can feel that bundle of wool in my stomach still when I think back, And so I know exactly how this feels. And, when I got into my 20s and 30s and understood why, even in my 20s, I was still feeling so anxious, it all stemmed back to how I felt as a kid. And so over the years, as I understood, and I went down so many rabbit holes like we do, spent so much money, went down so many rabbit holes of therapists and people that were lovely but didn't have the answers. They just didn't. They weren't equipped. They couldn't take me to the root of what was going on for me. So, of course, we get left with this feeling of, well, there's something wrong with me. Yeah, anticipatory anxiety. Yeah, totally. These suppressed emotions, they cause these real physical feelings. So I guess what I'm saying is that, what I am saying is, when you go on a journey like that, for me, this isn't like, oh, I never thought this would be a fun thing to teach one day. I literally, in my 20s, had to continue to find the answer to how I was feeling, because it started to affect my health. I had chronic fatigue. I couldn't get out of bed for weeks on end at certain points in my 20s. Well, months on end, actually. And long story short is, when I kept going and came to the understanding of a few things, and I'll go into what they are, I had to share this with people. Because, as if I could just learn all of that and then be like, okay, I'll now just go and get an office job or be a school teacher, which is actually what I wanted to do when I was younger. This is a huge freaking missing link in our society still. Parents come to me that are actually psychologists themselves, and they're struggling with their child. And they work with me and they say, this is literally the missing link. So, I couldn't just walk away and think, oh, well, I'm glad that I'm okay. But, I just felt a huge calling to help other people, because I knew the impact this had on my life. The impact it had that my parents didn't understand this, that this information wasn't available. And truly, the only reason I'm here now making this available in my own voice, with my own expression, is because I've literally walked it. I've walked that journey, and it's enabled me to get into the psyche of the highly sensitive child and put it into a language, and now teach that language to parents, so that you can actually create these feelings of internal safety and create these internal beliefs in their subconscious mind that influence how they think, feel and behave every day. This was never about, and never has been for me, about managing behaviour. This has always been about, why is that child behaving that way? Why? What's going on? Why did I used to feel sick all of the time? Why did I used to feel so anxious? So when I came to understand that as a highly sensitive child, I had a highly sensitive nervous system, when I also came to understand that I had this thing called a subconscious mind. Hadn't heard of that till I was in my 20s. That would have been good to know about when I was younger. This part of the mind only drives about 95% of how we think, feel and behave every day. I was speaking about this on my workshop on Monday night. So for those of you that you were there, I won't go into that again because you were there. And if you want to know more about this, then obviously, DM me and we can discuss what that might look like. But when I understood that there was these vital pieces of information that when you put them together, you can actually start using these tools to actually create, as you say, protect against the shame we internalise. My whole CalmTalk method that I've developed is all about not just soothing your child, but actually helping you rebuild their inner safety in a very deep way that I'll be bold enough to say a psychologist cannot do it in the same way that you can learn to do it. Can anybody guess why that is? To me, it's obvious, but that's because I talk about this every single day. Why do you think there's something about you, and for some of you, this will be also really obvious. Why do you think you hold so much more power than somebody like me? Because I love kids. I could literally sit and talk, have sessions with kids if I want to. But for me, it's always been very clear, at least for the last 10 years, that working with the parent is way more powerful than me talking to your child. It's because your child gets their feeling of inner safety and security, their release, as you said here, from shame, comes from you because of the attachment that they have with you, the attachment and connection that they need with you in order to feel secure. Yes, you can sit with a total stranger who is an expert in this kind of thing. Of course, you can sit with an expert who you've only just met last week and start to feel like they're talking to you in a way that, oh my gosh, a child might feel like, I feel really understood by this lady or this man. But building that connection with a person, it's you, you're the parent. Yeah, I felt like there was something wrong with me when I had to see a therapist. Yeah, me too. I went to a school counsellor at age 10. I did not leave that room thinking, or feeling rather, do you know what? I feel so connected in here. I just now realise there's nothing wrong with me. I walked out with a bit of a top tip of, and this is no disrespect to therapists, because I've spent many years working with children myself as well, and I'm qualified to work with children. What I'm highlighting is the difference between a parent learning to create this for their child and a parent believing that they can't do it, therefore they have to send their child to somebody else. And I left that room as a 10-year-old. My mum parked in the car park outside, probably listening to the radio, and I went off, spoke to this lady that I'd never met before, and came out, and she was, great. She'd given me a couple of visualizations, some different ways to imagine my teacher. I even remember what she recommended of how to visualize my teacher so that I didn't see her as this scary monster. It didn't freaking help. It made no difference, because when I went back to school the next day, the scary monster was still there, and my mum had not been given any advice on how to support me that morning. And it's fair to say I never went back to that lady. I think I only went to her once. But this is why this work matters to me so much, because as you can see when I get so passionate, like I've literally walked in the shoes of a child that feels like that. And we've got adults here saying, what was it? Believe there was something wrong with me. That belief runs deep, doesn't it? I started with that belief, like you, under the age of 9. That's the belief that I'm still dismantling today. It's dismantled a lot more and dissolved a lot more than it was even like 3 years ago. But that belief runs deep, and that's why when I'm working with parents, it's a lot of this is about making sure that that the child has a belief that's actually supporting their nervous system, that's actually this inner dialogue that's constantly saying, you are good enough, you are lovable, you are really worth my love, no matter how you feel. So I wanted to cover this topic today. Let's bring this back and wrap this up. School meltdowns. If you're feeling like you're dreading that time of day, and if your child's finished school now and you're thinking, I'm dreading when they go back to school because that's when things start to get really, really stressful for our family, I want to let you know that there is a lot that I can support you with. I truly, truly know, I know that if my parents had access to the info that I've learned over the last 15, 17 years now, they would have been well equipped to support me. And that really matters to me. That I make this available to parents today, because trillions of children across the globe need this. So I have created something for to give away to you, to help you, a little CalmTalk 3-step process. If you think that this could help you with those after school moments or any moment, drop me a word calm in my DMs, private message me the word calm, and I will send it to you. Thanks for joining me today. I intend to do more of these Thursday CalmTalk conversations, and if there is a topic that you would love me to cover, DM me that as well. But I think this is definitely a topic that so many people will benefit from. So I think next week we'll dive into more around school and how highly sensitive children are struggling in school and how we can support them. I'm a therapist, but focus work with the adults. Yeah, so I bet you see a lot of this come up in your work with adults, don't you? Yeah, with the inner child, which is, I'm guessing, why you can join the dots on this, because you see it in your own practice. Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me several weeks ago. You know, she had joined the dots and realised that so much of the things that she talks about with her clients, as well as a therapist, stem back to childhood. You know, so this is also why I'm really passionate about training professionals. I will have a wait list up next week. I'm going to put some dates together soon to actually do my next round of professional training. I know I've had a couple of people ask me about that over the last week. So if anybody's also interested in that, do reach out. Otherwise, I'm going to hop off and go and have my lunch. DM me the word calm if you would like me to send you my 3-step process that you can use after school to really start to shift the way you're approaching your child, so that you actually feel like that safe space, that calm space when they come home. You know, you're not just feeling like people are saying, oh, it's because you're the safe space and that's why they just let all their feelings out. We want to help you actually feel like you're the safe space in here, in your body, you know, not so triggered by them, not so thrown off by their feelings, because that's just not a great way to live, is it? Drop me the word calm and I will send that to you, and I look forward to catching up with you next week. I'll be here same time next Thursday. Speak soon. Thanks for contributing. See you soon. Bye.